Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream episode of 20 Years and Counting. It's Jack Marshall, Max Duprat, and we're less than an hour after the March Madness bracket dropped. Number 15 seed Idaho will be playing number 2 seed Houston, OKC. Max, I'm going to throw up the social link for people who haven't tuned in to the live stream, since obviously I don't think people knew we were going to go live, can tune in. But if you're watching this, thanks for tuning back in. Max, just real fast, what is your initial reaction to Idaho as a 15 seed in the South region, I believe, playing a Houston Cougars out of the Big 12?
I think I definitely have mixed feelings. We've talked a lot about this on the podcast. Teams that we didn't really want them to play, and I think any team in the Big 12 was kind of, in that realm of teams that are just really going to beat the crap out of you. Houston was Houston, I was there probably the two that I was really scared of. And to get Houston in OKC, it's probably going to be a tough matchup. But I think on the other side of it, you get, I don't know, I think you get the respect that you deserve. Like if you're the Vandals, you get the 15 seat. And I think that is in itself kind of a reward. I honestly, going into this, I thought they were going to be a first four team. I was pretty set on them maybe dropping a bit. I know there are a lot of brackets that had them as a 15, but I honestly was thinking like, oh man, I don't know how they're gonna, their net matches up against some of these other teams. And Idaho, and credit to them, finished high enough, finished well enough that they got out of that 16. So obviously, yes, you play a tough team. You play a Houston team that is probably, yes, they're a 2 seed, but they're in my opinion probably better than at least one of the 1 seeds, in my opinion, maybe two, like at least just outright. I like Houston a lot. I've seen them play a lot of basketball this year. That's an unbelievable team, but it's a tough draw, obviously. But if I'm Idaho, I would feel really happy right now that you get the respect you deserve. You get the 15 seed. That's something that, I think you should be really proud of if you're the Vandals. But it's a tough draw. It is admittedly probably of all the 2 seed draws, in my opinion, I think it's the toughest. I think between
We're downloading ESPN Tournament Challenge. Downloaded on the phone, folks. Get excited. Best time.
Yeah, we got it down. Yeah, everybody download Tournament Challenge. Pick Idaho to pull the upset and put money on it too. betting odds. What's the thing from the Jeff Teague podcast where one of the guys where he's like, for one time only, PJ Tucker, 5 threes, gets you $1,000. That's what I feel like picking Idaho, putting money down on Idaho to beat Houston. But hey, I'd like to know what those odds are.
We got a Houston fan in the chat, Nav8X.
Oh, what's up?
Oh,
wow.
Nav, I'd like to know. Maxer said he watched some Houston. I watched Houston play Iowa State this year, but I haven't seen very much Houston basketball. He says he feels bad for 25-point Idaho loss. I feel bad. But yeah, Houston's a good team. I know they made the Natty last year, but for the last year especially, I'd like to know how he feels about Houston. No chance. Yeah. Okay.
No, yeah. It's one of those. As someone who had watched Houston both win and lose against Kansas. It's a team that, yes, I mean, like any good team, they have, they'll have some flaws. I mean, I know every time I turn on ESPN radio and I listen to what people say about Houston, I know a lot of what people like to talk about is like, oh, they might not be like, there might be like not the highest scoring team, but they're great defensively. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they've played pretty well on all ends. I don't really think it's kind of one of those things where like you really have to catch them on like one of their worst days, right? Like Houston Houston would have to have a terrible day for Idaho to beat them. And that's not to say Idaho isn't a good team, but Houston has played up so well. Obviously, they played Arizona extremely well. That Arizona team's strong, but it's it's just tough for me to see a world where Houston doesn't beat them by quite a bit. Um, but I mean, like I said, I think Idaho. I mean, you get the respect you deserve. By playing, you get this respect you deserve by getting to play Houston, by getting to play a 2 seed. That in itself, I think, is really big. We've seen Big Sky teams play teams close in the first half. I mean, honestly, I think about what Montana last year with Wisconsin. They played them close for a little bit. Um, Montana State when they played Kansas State a couple years ago. They played them close in the first half. Montana in 18 and 19, they played Michigan close in the first half in both those games. I'm pretty sure. There's a chance that Houston might play close in the first half. I don't know, but the Big Sky loves to you know I love to play a little scrappy in the first half, but at the end of the day, I think the difference between the good teams and great teams, especially these Power Four great teams, is I mean they're consistent for 4 quarters of the game, a full 4 quarters, and there's a lot of mid majors that will struggle to keep up with a team like that. So a good first half might be all the gas in the tank that they have. So I think if you're Idaho, I think positively, you go in, you say, hey, we play them close in the first half. That's probably that. I mean, that's a reason to get excited. I was excited last year when Montana played Wisconsin close. I was like, oh man, that first half, that was awesome. And then obviously it wasn't Tanji and it wasn't even John Tanji, who was the guy who ended up coming into it for Wisconsin in that game. I forget who it was, but another guy came out of nowhere and completely clean Montana, went Montana off the board in the second half. But when we're looking at this Houston team, I I could see, I could see Idaho if they play their best basketball that they can, maybe keeping it close in the first half. But like I said, I think this team has gas in the tank for a half full game. I think Houston's probably got it pretty center. I'd be interested to see what the odds are for the game, but I still think it's one of those things where Idaho it'll be probably a really tough game for Idaho, and we'll probably go into more matchups and things as well. But yeah, but like I said, I still think great for Idaho. I mean, I'm really happy that they got that 15, but I'm not the best draw, not the best of all the 2 seeds. I think probably my least the draw I was hoping least for, and being in OKC, like the amount of Houston fans that are going to be there, it's going to be insane. So yeah.
Yeah, Narv has some things to say, our friend in the chat. First things first, they're hoping you would find Max. Find the last time Houston lost to an unranked team. I guess Houston's like 100 games without losing to an unranked team, which is one of the longest streaks in college basketball. I think the spread is looking like 22.5. Houston opening line, so Houston's favored by like 22. Not great. He said it has been a down year for Houston, which is fair. I mean, they've played, but the Big 12 is. I'm sort of an Iowa State fan, like I said, and it's Big 12 is brutal. Iowa State beat Houston, and they had to go play Arizona. Like that's terrible. Like back to back. Texas Tech's really good too. In 2023, Houston beat Montana 79-44. So they've really taken care of mid-major teams in the past. Looking at Houston, Kings and Flemings, we said their leading scorer. He's a true freshman. He's a dog. But Emmanuel Sharp, super good. If you are watching at home, you don't know anything about Idaho. When you pull up the Tournament Challenge app, it shows Christian Gonzalez as their dude. That's not. He's out for the year, I think. So don't look into him as he's their guy. They actually have had a couple different guys. Jack Payne, or no, not Jack Payne. Colton Mitchell. When he's really good, he's kind of their guy. But sometimes it has to be Biko Johnson. Isaiah Brickers has been really good. Sometimes he's their guy. So they don't really have a true number one scorer. Couple background on Houston this year. They did way back in November, they lost to Tennessee by 3. And then they lost to Texas Tech. They beat BYU. BYU didn't win like any big games early on. They did lose to Iowa State Iowa State. That was the game I watched. That was the Hilton Magic game. No, it's Iowa State pulled that one out of nowhere. They did lose
Mhm.
to Arizona twice. Obviously, Arizona's 1 seed.
Yeah.
They kept it close the second time at Arizona, and they split their series with Kansas. This, including the second time they played Kansas.
They
That was a
they
bird.
cleaned. I watched both of those. And here I think you mentioned the Big 12 stuff. Going into the fog and like beating Kansas is even in a down year for Kansas is really hard. It's just it's one of the hardest it is one of Allen Fieldhouse is one of the hardest places to play in the country. The best teams are not going to win there. So to see Houston lose there, it wasn't like, oh man, Houston's like shuddering. Like, no, Houston Houston's playing in a top, if to me, a top three environment in the country. And then they cleaned up. I mean, they cleaned up house in the Big 12 championship against Kansas. Like that was the thing. Is like you. It's really hard to like put a ton of stock into games like that because Houston is going to lose those games.
Did we
Um,
find out the last time Houston lost to an unranked team?
no, I do. I
Oh,
do actually want to.
oh wait, it was in 2024. They lost to Iowa State January 9th in Hilton Coliseum when they were the number 2 team in the country. I think I remember that actually. He
Yeah,
said they also
and
beat
even
Kansas
then,
by 21 2 days ago. That was a big one
yeah.
too.
And
Um,
even then, that's like hardly an unranked loss, right? Like that, like
yeah, it
Iowa
doesn't really
State.
count.
It's one of those things where like even their most recent unranked loss was against an Iowa State team that has been on like one of the better just streaks of success of any team in the
Oh,
country.
no, I was
So,
saying they were ranked.
oh, now it's saying they were right.
Um, no, well, according to this ESPN article, in 2024, um, Iowa State was unranked. They
They
lost
were probably
57
ranked.
53.
I mean, they probably just got. I mean, they got ranked. They must have been ranked like right after that, though. I would
Yeah,
have to
Iowa State
look.
was good
Obviously,
that year. They were, yeah.
but I mean, regardless of that too, like I would want to. It'd be interesting to see like a list of like all their unranked losses in the past however many years. Like if that is like their most recent one,
And
like
maybe
that's
Iowa State was ranked in one poll and not the other, like the coaches or the
oh that's a good point. That's a good point. Um, but still like they've got. I mean, that's just one of those. It still proves the point that Houston is just a team that's you know they can lose games, they can look shaky at times, but you make the runs, you make the natty. I mean, Calvin Sampson's a great coach. I mean, we know what he is capable of. It's also really cool. I mean, kind of obviously not a like Big Sky connection, but the Montana Tech connection. Him being the former head coach of Montana Tech, which I think for a lot of Big Sky Conference basketball fans, I mean, they recognize that is kind of a regional thing, and so he has connections kind of loosely to to the Big Sky region, which I think is cool. So I think that makes that matchup a little bit more poignant, to have him, facing off against a team that was so close to him at one point, a team that was so close to a court that's now named after him, up in beautiful Butte, America. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for. I think moral of the story is we'll go more into this, but like I mean you look at this Houston roster, but it's just like it is tough for me to imagine that the spread is far off in any way.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately for the Idaho Vandal fans, but this is also a great time for us to highlight the Idaho Vandals and what even if this is a blowout, like what does this team bring this year, and like what is this team going to bring to March Madness against Houston? Um, which you already mentioned Colton Mitchell and Biko Johnson, but I mean, this is a team that has some fun guys. Isaiah Brickner, Jack Payne, who was preseason All Big Sky Conference. Obviously sucks, yes, without Christian Gonzalez. I mean, that was a guy coming in who looked really solid. They have Big Sky Freshman of the Year Jackson Rasmussen, who got it. It'll be tough. It'll be interesting to see where he kind of ends up fitting into the game plan. He got into quite a bit of foul trouble in the championship game against Montana, a team that isn't necessarily like super. The size there isn't super insane for that team, at least for the guys he was guarding. He was probably in good matchups, but he still, was getting in foul trouble. So I'll be interested to see how Houston kind of exposes him. Um, Obviously, Mitchell is a firework, but the problem with him is size wise, he also probably doesn't match up particularly well against. I mean, Houston's plethora of big guards that probably lock him down and out grit him. But I mean, Cole Mitchell had some really fun games when he's on. I mean, he's really tough to stop even at his size, but it is not like a super great guard matchup when we're looking at Houston versus Idaho. And I think Idaho really likes those guards to have big games. I mean, it basically got them to the Big Sky chip when the guards were on. So that'll be interesting to see that in particular, how Idaho tries to adjust, I guess, to that, but it's going to be probably a
Yeah.
pretty big uphill battle for that.
You're looking at Ken Palm. Idaho is actually um, ahead of 214 seeds in Penn and Kennesaw State in Ken Palm.
Mm,
And only 2 spots behind Troy, who's a 13 seed, which is kind of funny to see. Quite a few bid teams. Overall, you just look at it. Let's see. Let's go by some of their offense. They're ranked 145 in Ken Palm, and their defense has helped that out. That's higher at 136. Offensive, they haven't always been as good and consistent, like we've said before.
mm,
Tempo wise, they're not a crazy fast tempo team, but they are a really bad luck team. They're in the 200s for luck. They've lost some tough games according to luck. Um,
yeah. I mean,
yeah, and their schedule isn't anything crazy either. Especially defense. They haven't played very many good defensive teams. So, in non-conference, especially nothing special. They played the 160th schedule. So, and that included a lost Notre Dame by double digits. So,
yeah.
some things that
And
pop out. A good defense, though, that's important, and that travels. But obviously, we know Houston always has a really good defense. So, you know.
it's Yeah, I mean, even if it is in theory like a low scoring game, if that is possible, um, it's probably still going to be a pretty big margin. I think best case scenario for Houston is they use this as a way to get all the bad offense out. Um, case scenario, really best case scenario for Idaho. I mentioned already the good first half, just play them as close as you can and just get the morale victory. Um, but just hope that maybe you hit a couple more shots and Houston misses. You kind of just gotta hope that Houston does you kind of hope that Houston does play their worst game in the tournament and maybe you can fit something in, but it's you're relying a lot, like you mentioned that luck stat. I love and hate that stat because obviously it's not necessarily indicative of anything that the team is doing right or wrong, but it's also it shows a trend, it shows patterns in the season. And when you aren't a lucky team, which and this goes for every sport, you have to be lucky. Unfortunately, you have to have the injuries go your way, or I guess no injuries or lack of injuries go your way. You have to have the ball bounce the right way. You have to have all these things line up for you. It happens not just in March Madness. It happens to get to the Super Bowl, to get to the NBA Finals. All of these championship games are predicated on first getting in, being good enough to be there, and then secondly, the element of luck, being sure that you just have enough goodwill and good fortune that follows you um, for long enough. Because as we've seen, that you know, so many teams get super unlucky. They just, they fall into a bit of a slump, and a lot of the times it's just stuff that are just a little bit out of their control. I try to be as logical about it as possible, but I do think there is the luck factor is a pretty big one. It's just you have to be lucky. You really have to be lucky. So it's tough. I mean, you look at like Idaho's stretch from like the January 24th to February 12th when they lost out of 6 games. The only game they won was NAU. Um, Not a lot of like crazy blowout losses. I mean, they played good teams close, and we could probably look back at all those games and find moments where Idaho probably could have stayed in it, would have stayed in it. So um, if that's how they end up faring against the best teams, but it'll be interesting to see. But I'm a firm believer that the Big Sky Conference, you know, is a conference that love to play up. Um, they love to play up for a little bit, like they show what they're worth. But it's one of those things where you can only show your worth for so long sometimes. And I fear the Big Sky is a team that they do have a shelf life when it comes to tournament games, and I've been harping on it. That first half is kind of the shelf life. I've seen it time and time again. So that's the. I mean, even hell, we saw it when Montana State played Grambling. They played a hell of a first half, and then boom, it just evaporated like that against a team that was. I think they were better than in the net in Ken Palm. And they still, the was a team that they ended up falling to. So the case study for it is pretty large. So I don't know. It's just a little tough to be positive about it, but I mean, if you're Idaho, I mean, you just, I mean, be happy to be there. Be happy that's a testament in itself. So.
It would be cool for Idaho to go down there and play a team like Houston that just has that like pedigree and like those like Kingston Fleming and those blue chip guys, and it's going to be one of those things we definitely look back on. Um, and like no, I was saying like UConn or Purdue would have been a good draw. I don't know about UConn against a Big Sky team. I think they would have been a Big Sky team, but Purdue I think it would have been a better draw just because they're like one of those Big Ten like maybe slower paced teams, and like Braden Smith, like he's really good, but he's not like a big guard by any means, and he's not like an NBA guy, right? Like maybe a guy you could like compete with a little better. So it is a bad draw. Now I'll point out that similar opponent Notre Dame. Both teams played Notre Dame this year. Houston beat Notre Dame by 10. This was both non-conference, obviously. Houston was 7-1 at this point. Um, Emmanuel Sharp went 5 for 16. It was a pretty bad offensive game for Houston. They only scored 66, but Notre Dame scored 56. So they won. Emmanuel Sharp led him in scoring, but he didn't shoot very well. The team didn't really shoot very well. They actually had a good first half in that game, and then slowed down. They went 8 for 27 for 3. And then on the other end, Idaho, like I said, they lost by 15 to Notre Dame. Beagle Johnson scored 19 in that game, though. He shot pretty well. But that was always kind of in Notre Dame's favor, that game. At one point it was I guess it was close for a while. It was 49-50 with like 12 minutes left. So yeah, and obviously this is one of like Houston's worst games. I'd say Idaho played them pretty well and then died. The thing about Idaho though that I think favors them is like early in the year they had some good and bad. Like they beat Washington State to start the year. That's a regional rival, and their WCC team weren't great this year.
Yeah.
But and they beat South Dakota State in the Big Sky Summit Challenge. That was a pretty big win for them. But then they lost a game to like Sam Houston, which is pretty bad. But right now they're really hot. So that's like the best thing for Idaho. It's just they have that momentum, which is really big in tournament season. We saw them knock off both Montana, and Eastern Washington all in the conference tournament. They didn't get lucky and have to. They also had to beat Sac State too. Shout out Mikey Williams, but they they beat some good Big Sky teams on that run. So they're hot, which is true, but we'll see how long that shelf life goes. And I think you're right. I think if Houston does come out flat and Idaho's playing well, they could maybe keep it close. But Houston's proven to be a really good defensive and adjustment second half team. And Big Sky teams in the tournament have just proven to be pretty bad. Second half teams in the tournament, I would like to see either maybe draw a team like Purdue or maybe a team like Idaho to get lucky and get that 14 seed. Which, I mean, they're not one of the best teams in their conference. They don't exactly deserve it, but would have been nice.
No.
Some better 3 seeds, but we don't make the bracket.
Yeah, and it's like tough too because Idaho. I mean, you get a couple more wins, you play a little bit. I mean, they're right there with Troy. They're right there with Wright State. Like, it's not like it's one of those things where you see like they're ahead of Penn. They're right there with some of those teams. I mean, North Dakota. There's a pretty big gap between Wright State and NDSU, but I mean, Idaho really like you look at like their overall resume and man, they really had a chance to like eke their, eke their way up a bit. It's kind of fascinating though when you look at like Montana State, obviously they lost early, but like they're 133. That's above Wright State and Troy um in Ken Palm. Uh so it's interesting to see like they're not super far off from each other, but like how close those teams are, and just how a couple wins probably got away from Idaho, and they may have been. I mean, you probably. Oh yeah, you'd almost certainly want to consider them for that 14 seed. Probably would be stealing a 14 seed from um, some team, whether it was Wright State or Penn or Kennesaw State. There would probably be a steal there if they were just up a little bit more. So um,
Oh,
it's it's interesting to look at it and see how close Idaho really was between all these teams that they ended up like falling behind. And if their record is just a little bit better, they probably would one get the Ken Palm boost, and two they would have that record boost, and that would put them like 21-14 is just such a brutal record to have going in, knowing that you probably could have stolen a 14 seed if you just had a couple more games go your way um, in this one, which is honestly kind of surprising to see them that close. I didn't really think that they were going to be right there, but
well,
um,
now I've wanted to know who was number 1 seed in the Big Sky Conference tournament, and that was actually
oh, it was
Portland State,
yeah.
who had like 2 Louisiana Tech transfers on their team. And where did Terry Miller Jr. transfer from?
He was also Louisiana Tech, I thought.
Oh, you're right. They had Terry Miller and Jalen Henderson were 2 Louisiana Tech guys, and then Minot was like South Carolina. So they had a bunch of like good
Yeah.
size, like not quite like they were like recruited high caliber, but weren't quite good enough. Like guys who played but want to be stars. Um,
Mhm.
who actually came back a second year. And they played really well in conference. But then like ran out of gas at the end. And they lost. They barely won their first round game, and then they did lose to Montana. Um, What's known as Big Sky get Power 5 transfers. Well, back in the day, they used to get quite a bit. Now, with the way NIL and the portal is, it kind of just goes team by team. So some
Mhm.
teams can get some like decent Power 5 transfers, but some teams really have to work through like the NAIA and Division 3, Division 2 level. So it depends.
Mhm.
So why don't we look at the Idaho roster and go through? You want to talk about different like where guys transferred in from, different guys on the roster, and that's the cool thing about Idaho is quite a few of their guys actually are Idaho kids, which is always pretty um exciting. Anywhere like I'm sure if you get some Texas guys on the Houston roster, that's always pretty exciting, especially if they're from like the Houston area and they play prep sports. And the Vandals have a couple guys who are that way. Let's see, here's men's basketball roster and staff. Okay, so they're
I think
yeah. And Houston gets just Houston. Not saying Houston relates on high school players, not NIL. Idaho, then the Big Sky. Some teams are mainly only transfers, but Portland State was a little that way. But other teams like to have a couple guys. But let's just go through the roster and talk about their guys individually, Max. So, for anyone watching, they can find out about the Idaho team first. Oh, why don't I pull it up for our fans at home? But number one is our guy Brody Roberry. Oh no, number zero.
Brody.
Sorry,
Number
Idaho
zero,
Vandals
yes. Number
basketball.
number one is another guy that's solid too, but
Yeah.
not quite. Yeah, Brody
Brody
Roberry.
Roberry. He's a senior. He's from Meridian, Idaho, which is
Local, pretty close, right? I don't
I think
know.
Meridian's by Boise. Let's Google it. How about you
Oh no,
Google it?
you're right. It is Meridian is by Boise. You're correct. So not that close.
Which, if you
It
don't know,
is.
Idaho's in the north, or University of Idaho's northwestern Idaho, right?
Uh, yeah.
It's
So
in the
yeah,
Panhandle.
so for people who don't know, we can always pull up a map. But for people who don't know Pacific Northwest geography, Moscow is literally right on the border of Washington and Idaho. It is the start of the Panhandle, essentially, um, and right, literally 15 minutes over the border to Washington is where Washington State University is, where the
So,
Cougars play. So they are literally a 15 minute drive from each other. They are right at the bottom of the Panhandle. It's probably about it's about an hour south of Spokane, where for our basketball fans, that's where Gonzaga University is. They're about an hour south of Spokane, and then probably about 4 hours away from Missoula if you're going east. And
and I
Missoula
think
is
5
probably the
hours
biggest.
north of Boise.
Five. Wait, how many hours? Sorry,
I think
say
5 hours. Things are they're saying on the broadcast. 'Cause that's what the conference tournament is.
5 hours. That would make sense. Also, for people who don't know, Boise is like, for the fact that it's the capital and the largest city in Idaho, it's also extraordinarily hard to drive to because there's no like really direct way to get there, despite the fact that, yeah, it is like it's the capital. So yeah, so little geography lesson for you. Boise is really hard to get to. And even though Moscow and Boise aren't like necessarily that far away in theory from each other, it's still just impossible to get there. So it is going to be about a 5 hour drive. I think it's like, what, 7.5 hours from Missoula? I might be wrong. That might be a
Yeah.
little optimistic.
Um.
I'm looking. 7.5. No, I was right. I was actually dead on 7.5.
Okay. So speaking of near Boise, Missoula, Brody Roberry, our roster recap. He's number zero. He's big dude. He's their biggest guy, and honestly, one of the biggest guys in the Big Sky Conference. 6'11", 255. Not
Mhm.
crazy mobile, as you would expect for a big guy in a small mid-major basketball team. Spent quite a few years, even though he's from Boise, at southeastern Louisiana, which, like, I don't know how he ended up there. And played 3 years there. He was a 31 game starter, and he honestly put up pretty similar numbers there than he did um, at this year at Idaho. This year he started in all 35 games for him. He plays in the post. He's a defensive guy, but he can shoot threes. And likes to. In the Big Sky Championship, if you watch it, Montana's game plan was to let him shoot, and it worked in the first half. But in the second half, he caught fire. So he's the kind of guy that, like, he kind of almost shouts out, like, sort of, if, like, Idaho does have a, Cinderella win, would be the focal point of it. Like, he was sort of that against Montana. Like, he just had a really good game, showing a lot of emotion.
Who- I Oh, for sure. I want to find the post because I don't want to say this nickname and not credit someone. Oh, it's so Theo Lawson, who covers Gonzaga basketball for the Spokesman Review. He quote tweeted an Idaho basketball tweet, which was Brody Roberry hitting a three, wide open three. And he called him Meridian Jokic. I want to give him credit for that nickname because it's
Meridian
hilarious.
Jokic.
The Meridian Jokic. So Theo Lawson, if for some reason you see this clip, just want to let you know that's a phenomenal nickname. And it's I wouldn't say he really is like yoke because like we talk about what's his name, Avila from St. Louis. Like he's like actually kind of like a Jokic type. Brody Roberry is not like a super facilitator really.
Yeah, they
I
don't
mean
really
he's
run the
very
offense through Brody.
no, but it is still a funny nickname, and I do kind of love the like he does have like the shooting stroke, and that's kind of one of those fun things about him is like if he is if he is on and you leave him open, especially in the second half, like if that's where you need the points, like um if it's his night, I mean he'll probably hit like at least a couple and make you rethink your game plan a bit. But yeah, just a little slower, not particularly like super standout athlete, but I mean he's a big dude who can shoot. So he could easily be a problem if you like completely neglect him, but he has to be on, and he's not on every night, which is
Yeah.
kind of the problem. Is
And
um,
he's not like the fastest guy, so if Houston went small ball fast paced, they'd probably take him out.
yes, exactly. He also
Okay.
did get into foul trouble a little bit in the Big Sky Championship as well. So another thing to keep an eye out for is he does get into foul trouble as one of the bigger dudes. But to be fair, the Big Sky Conference does ref big dudes a lot harder than I think
A lot of
some other
conferences
conferences
do.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a bigger conference might be a little bit more lenient to him playing up to his size, whereas the Big Sky, who's not used to these bigger dudes coming in, they are probably going to be a bit harsher on calls. So I actually think it might benefit him, like foul wise, playing having these other bigger conferences ref him. So I don't know, but still.
That is true. Last year though, I do remember Montana, a very physical team, did get into some foul trouble against Wisconsin. But
Didn't Tajon Sawyer foul? I think he fouled out of that game. If I'm
I
correct, I
think
could be wrong.
Pridgeon was in foul trouble
Oh,
too, and
Pridge.
he was
Okay.
a big part of their. And speaking of defensive guys, next on the Idaho roster, number 1, Trayvon Blasingame. He's from Auburn, Washington, so a Pacific Northwest guy. He spent his freshman year at Farley Dickinson in 2022-2023. You might remember that year. They beat Purdue. So they got a guy who's been in like a locker room around that. He knows what that's like. He knows how to prep for it. Not his first time. Then he transferred back to Idaho. He didn't really play very much for Farley Dickinson. Oh, I will say that. Transfers back to Idaho 2 years ago. Played in 31 games. He's not a big scorer. Last year, I think he was probably injured because he redshirted all year. This year, he's a defensive piece. So he guarded Money Williams, who's arguably the best scorer and NBA prospect in the Big Sky. You can vote Terry Miller for MVP if you want, folks, but I'm just going to say take a victory lap on that one after the Big Sky tournament. Who the real
Oh my
MVP
god.
is. All those damn Twitter people shouting me out. I'll tell you what. Who looked good? We got 3 head-to-heads between those guys, and I'll tell you who looked best. Anyway, Blasingame guarded Money Williams in Boise in the championship game, and Money Williams was sick. Granted, I thought did a really good job face guard him. So I imagine Blasingame's going to guard Flemings. If you're a Houston fan, number 1's going to be on him. If you're watching on the stream here, he cut his hair. He doesn't look like he does in this big photo. He has short hair now.
Oh.
But number
Yes.
1, he's fun to watch. But he did hit a 3. Like if you leave him open, he'll shoot 3s. But he's a really good lengthy defensive player. He's listed at my roster's glitching a little bit. It's taking a long load. He's listed at 6'4". That's probably fair. He's not very. He's a little skinny. In terms of just like he's not like a football player, but he's got good length. And he's a talented defender. Okay. Number 2, Talon Jenkins. You haven't seen him play, have you?
Not a lot.
He's
I
a
feel
true
like
freshman.
for a lot of these freshmen, it'll
Don't
be
make a
yeah.
season.
We'll probably skip past the people who didn't play.
Number 3, Pico Johnson. So this guy, we know well. He is a transfer from Fort Lewis, which is a Division 3 school?
They're a Division 2 school.
Division 2 school.
You know how I know that?
How do you know that?
Because they played in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference against your RMAC champion Black Hills State Yellow Jackets.
Oh, that's right, because when he was there, he scored 19 against Black Hills State, and was the RMAC Offensive Player of the Week.
Well, you know what? It doesn't matter because they're in the tourney right now.
Okay,
that was last year.
I can't wait to hear about that. But Vico Johnson is kind of a journeyman guy. He played 2 seasons at Western Nebraska Community College.
Yeah.
Transferred to Nebraska Omaha D1 school in the Summit. Didn't play very much. He 2 starts and then a shoulder injury limited his
Yeah.
minutes. So then he transferred to Fort Lewis and RMAC. And he was pretty good. He came into Idaho and he was kind of touted to be the guy. And certain games he has really been the guy, and sometimes he's had quiet games. He's averaging 12 points per game. Um, he did. So he's had some good games. Like he went off for 19 in the first round, played really well in the first round against Montana State. 25-point game against Sac State. 22-point game against the Grizz. At a different point in the year. 20 against Portland State. 26 at Weber. Like he's had some good games, but at points he also had some really bad games there. There was a weekend where he went like against Northern Colorado though, he went 1 for 12, 0 for 8, 3 for 12, and I think they lost all 3 of those games.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a guy where if he plays well, they play pretty well, and you can say this about a lot of guys. But Biko Johnson, when he doesn't play well, the team can be pretty bad. So he's a big part. He's kind of their a point guard type guy for them. Fun player to watch though. Fun story in the senior. You're a Biko Johnson fan, especially Max. I remember you talked about it early in the podcast.
I really like Biko Johnson. I mean, I mentioned earlier kind of the problem with the smaller guards versus what Houston's pretty, big guard lineup. But Biko, and we'll get to his fellow guard mate kind of. I mean, it's kind of him and another guy as 1 and 2 when it comes to like the main guards. But yeah, I mean, when he goes off, he goes off. He didn't have a phenomenal championship game. There's a there's a pretty big low light of him like tackling. Who did he like tackle at the
And I
rim?
forgot
What was that?
Brooklyn Hicks. I forgot.
It
Yeah,
was
if you're if
he like
if
yeah,
Kingston Flemings is on a fast break for an open dunk, I hope he watched film of the Big Six championship game and knows that he will get tackled by Biko John. Like Biko for sure played football in high school in California. Um,
yeah.
but you know what? The next time someone had a fast break layup with Biko Johnson by him, they jump stopped and missed a layup. So it worked. But yeah, Biko's fun. Number 4, Aiden Sevilla is a grad student. Doesn't play very much, but he's an active guy on the bench. So if like they're going on a big run and they cut to the bench, you'll see number 4, Aiden Sevilla. Listed at 6 foot, we know what that means and how tall he actually is. Okay, number
Yeah.
5 is right behind you in your back room. Isaiah Brickner. He's got a cool story. Went to Marist in New York for 2 seasons. Marist, sorry, in New York for 2 seasons. Out of San Diego. He was pretty good there. Transfers back to the Big Sky. He played on the team last. He actually took a prep year after high school. He was a very under recruited guy. Sunrise Christian. And then got a D1 opportunity, and then came to Idaho. Played last year. We watched him play in Missoula last year, and then this year was the Big Sky Conference bench 6-man of the year, even though right now we don't think he plays off the bench. But I don't know, Max, how would you describe his play style? I'd say like spark plug type of guy.
He's spark plug. He's athletic. He's probably the most. And if we're looking at main, either starting or rotational guys, like Isaiah Brickner is probably like their main athlete. What are you looking at?
I just noticed my drink has natural caffeine in it. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, guys, he's gonna be awake all night now.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
but he's probably he really is probably their most athletic, their athletic player. He's listed as a guard, but he guarded quite a. I think he honestly guarded quite a few forwards in the league too. I think he has that kind of like versatility where maybe he can guard the three. At least in the Big Sky, he was guarding the three a little bit. But Brick, I think yeah, he's just super mobile. He's super jumpy. He had a really insane putback dunk in the championship. I actually want, like, if you have not seen any Idaho highlight, that's probably the highlight I recommend, because he is a guy that, yeah, he can jump out the gym. He's quick. He's got good length. He's a guy who can shoot. I mean, he can shoot, but also, honestly, I think I like him best attacking the rim, like being a guy who is, putting pressure on bigs. He draws fouls. Like, he is a guy who, um, like, he's basically the reason that they won the Big Sky Championship, was his play. He was just so active. He was so hard to stop. And I mean, if he is a good game, it's usually at the expense of the people who are guarding him. He's drawing fouls. He's like, he's just like busting somebody's ass in order to get those points. So he honestly is probably right now my favorite player to watch on the Idaho roster. I think Biko was to start the season, but Isaiah slowly kind of built his role, and even when he doesn't start, like, it it is very evident, like, what he brings to the table in terms of athleticism, even just for, like, not to say 6'4" is small, but like, he's guard. I mean, he guards bigger dudes. Like, exposes um he exposes bigger dudes in the Big Sky. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has a decent game, but also another guy who, like, I mean, he has some really slow performances. Like, he isn't like a lot of these guys. Like, even the best players on this team aren't consistent. And Isaiah is one of those players where I really like him off the bench in a lot of scenarios, because he doesn't need to be like that guy necessarily. And then when he is, it usually leads to Idaho, getting a win. So I don't know. I really like him. I like his play style. He's one of the more athletic players in the Big Sky at 6'4", 190s. But yeah, no, I really like Isaiah. I really like what he brings. I really hope he has a good game. I think it'll be really interesting if Idaho can get, get him opportunities to potentially, you know, get the matchups that he wants against Houston. There's probably not a lot of matchups that really are going to work super well for any of those players, but I mean, I think, he's listed as a guard. He's probably one of their better sized guards in that scenario, um, at least for the athletic ability that he brings too. Because we'll talk about another guy who's listed as a guard, who I don't necessarily think will match up as well against some of the bigger guards, but I think Isaiah probably has a better chance of matching up against a lot of the bigger Houston guys, just off an athletic standpoint.
Yeah, and he started the year on the bench. And then kind of at one point in conference season, he had to step up and become a starter. And in the games he was a starter, there was only once where he didn't score in double digits. And I was actually their opening round conference tournament game. He had a bad game, but after that, he went 15, 10, 23 in the conference chip. And I think you're exactly right, Max. His play, especially down the stretch, is a huge reason Idaho is in the tournament. Okay, moving on. Number 7 is Jack Payne, a 6'6". He's listed as a guard. I'd say guard forward. Doesn't really handle the
Yeah.
ball. A very beloved guy. He's from Boise, as they say. So an Idaho guy. He actually spent 2 seasons at Colorado State. So, like, not quite Power 5 guy, but near there. 8
Yeah.
games. Didn't play very much, but he played in the first 4 in their win over Virginia in the 2024 NCAA tournament. He scored 2 points. And he in they were 25-11, and they made it in the round of 32 that year.
Yeah.
If you remember that, if that was David
Yeah.
Roddy, right? That was a good
That
team.
was that was that. Wait, sorry. Sorry, what year? When they
20
made the
2023, 2024, I believe was the yeah.
That was okay. That would be. Was David Roddy already off the team by that point though? That might have been like.
I feel like he had to be on the team when they made the round of
I
32.
I think you're right, but I feel
Yeah,
like
Fact check that
Let me
for
look.
me. I'll tell us a little more about
I'm
Jack
fact I'm
Payne.
fact checking it. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I feel like David Roddy graduated long. Like, yeah, no, I think it was David Roddy graduated 2022 is when he got drafted. So that was what the
Damn.
Colorado State men's basketball 2023 2024 is when they
Yeah. But
um
Jack Payne,
they
he had offers to play D1 football. Actually, crazy enough, want to play basketball. He was a quarterback. But after 2 seasons at Colorado State, he's come back to Idaho. He had a better year last year than this year, straight up. Where
yeah.
he was a full time starter. Well, last year, this year he actually kind of seems like he lost his spot, probably to Brickner in the rotation. Um, hasn't been as crazy of a score, but he is a three. He shoots a 3 pointers is kind of his thing. Like he doesn't shoot. Um, Sometimes he shoots closer shot, but he can be a bit of a microwave scorer. Like hit a couple games where he hit 4 threes for him this year and scored 12 points. Towards the end of the year, so you never know. He's a guy that if he gets hot could be a problem. And 6'7" height, or 6'6", he definitely has height, and so he could be a guy they need, especially against a good defensive team like Houston, who can kind of shoot over the defense. We're going to talk about Mitchell here as a guy who might not be able to do that. But what went on that year at Colorado State?
So the 23-24 season. Okay, so I'm now down like a huge rabbit hole because I was seeing a bunch of the former guys on this team. So the 23-24 season, that was not David Roddy, but that was Neat Clifford. That was who was their guy that in 23-24, which obviously for people who watch the NBA, Sacramento Kings, Neat Clifford. Obviously that team's a dumpster fire, but Neat Clifford's at least decent. Um, but it's very funny looking at like this team because uh, Jack Payne was, yeah, he uh, made the round of 32 with Colorado State. The year prior, Jack Payne's first year, his true freshman year with Colorado State, he had a player that I had mentioned earlier in this episode in this live stream, um, who did some damage in the Big Ten. John Tonji was on this
Oh,
roster. Jack Payne was on the same team. And then a year prior to Jack Payne even being on the roster, John Tonji was still there. And guess what? A former Big Sky, I mean, I standout guy who contributed, Deshaun Thomas for the Montana
right,
Grizzlies.
yeah.
So there is kind of the Big Sky connection goes back pretty darn far with these Colorado State teams. Obviously, this season, there's nobody with that kind of connection on their current roster, from what I understand. But still, kind of a weird, whatever it is, a weird.
It's
Oh,
crazy. I feel like if you go back in time with a lot of Mountain West teams, basketball, you're gonna find some, maybe, especially if you're a Big Sky fan, or even a Power Five fan, you're gonna find some familiar names.
yeah. But yeah, so kind of a fascinating little thing. Yeah, there's no real connections on this current roster that would make sense for Colorado State. But yeah, but I second all the stuff you say about Jack Payne though. Yeah, definitely a guy who can shoot over. Maybe a little inconsistent this year, more than I think a lot of people thought coming in as an All Big Sky Conference like preseason selection. But still a fun player, still a good player when he's on. But the same issue of consistency. Where does he really match up super well? I think, yeah, definitely could have been a lot stronger this year in terms of what he brought to the table. But this Idaho team, I mean, there's quite a few seniors on this team, but honestly, like he's a redshirt junior, which is like super big for them because he'll probably come back next year and he'll be
Yeah,
like
he seems like a pretty
he'll be
beloved guy.
he'll be on it, assuming he stays. Obviously, we won't know. There's already been a lot of transfers out of the Big Sky, so we've got a lot of transfer news that has come out of the Big Sky from other teams. But I wouldn't be surprised if he stuck around. He has a really good opportunity to contribute in this tournament game and also next year. So
Another guy who you won't see on the court, but you will maybe hear about because we already talked about him is Christian Gonzalez, number 10.
yeah,
He played in 61 games for the Vandals in his first 2 years, including last year. He was pretty good for them, started in all but 3 games, 11 points per game, arguably one of their better players, and he scored 18 points in their season opener against Washington State, and then got hurt and has been out for the rest of the year. So he's technically their leading guy in points per game. He scored 18 points. He is injury cleared way for Pico Johnson to have the role he's had this year, um, which is good news for Pico. He was a senior, and then Christian was a junior. He will probably get another year of eligibility because he's only played 1 year this year. And so he'll probably get 2 more years. So that's good for Christian, and he gets to be with the team for all this, I imagine. So yeah, it's good. Um, that's a guy who you might see if you're looking at stats, but you're probably not going to see on the floor. Okay, Titus
no,
Euro, from Lapway, Idaho, redshirt junior. I haven't Lapway. I haven't heard of this guy. He hasn't played at all this year. He must be hurt or redshirting. Okay. Um, Jackson Rasmussen, an interesting guy. He
yes,
is the Big Sky Freshman of the Year, listed 6'7", 200, a tall player. Um, he was named the Big Sky Freshman of the Year by Mid Major Madness, and also the Big Sky Conference. He is from Meridian, Idaho, so a local kid. Where's Meridian compared to Moscow? Do you know?
well, it's literally right next to Boise, so probably about 5 hours.
Okay, but he did. So he played 3 years at Hawaii High School, Meridian, but he transferred to Utah Prep for a year. Number one high school prospect in the state of Idaho. Fun guy. Has had a great year at Idaho. He started in every single game he's played in his freshman year. Really good game with Eastern Washington. He scored 16 points. Good game against Sac State in the Big Sky tournament. Scored 19. When he takes the most shots, they seem to do pretty well. In general, he is a freshman. And if you ask me, averaging 13.9 points per game, when he's on, he's their best player some games. And this
Yeah,
is, I think, a bit of a, he's an Idaho guy, but bit of a, maybe what do we call it, an audition? Because if he plays well in this game, he could get some pretty good offers. 6'7" freshman,
yeah, yeah. He
leading scorer.
he is, yeah, he's solid. I mean, he does a lot of stuff well. I think he was maybe for people who watch the Big Sky Conference tournament like championship game. I think they saw like the super low end of what Jackson Rasmussen could do. He got into foul trouble extremely early in that game and was basically neutralized for most of it. Um, but I don't really think that's super indicative of what he is. I mean, he's athletic, another guy with great length. Like he plays super well, good scorer. I mean, really good defender. I mean, he's pretty talented just all around. I mean, and I agree with what you say. Like when he really just when he's on, Idaho does well. Um, he's a guy who's really tough to guard, especially in the Big Sky. Like he matches up. He's like such a tough matchup for so many people. Maybe a little skinny, maybe a little lean. In comparison to some guys. I mean, you do work. I think a lot of the big guys in um, the Big Sky usually are kind of like slower, like pretty big dudes. And even guys who are, a little smaller than him, still a little bulkier. Um, like you might worry about him. I think one of those the big things for him, like he matched up against Tejan Sawyer a lot in that game, and Tejan is pretty notorious for exposing like slimmer forward, slimmer center, like guys who even if they match up height wise, like they um just skinny guys he usually is able to expose. But I think Rasmussen really plays when he plays well, when he kind of gets the looks he wants. He's pretty hard to stop as well. But Also a freshman, like a guy who is still pretty raw. Um, I think I like he's shown a lot this year, but a guy whose ceiling I think is pretty high. But I mean, played really well. Obviously, very deserving of the Freshman of the Year award. Kind of proved that throughout the tournament, but didn't have like the greatest tournament of all time. Definitely had some issues, but I think that kind of comes with that's more of a maturity thing and less of a strict basketball skill thing. I think he just was adjusting to the pace of that environment, and I think it'll hopefully pay off for him going into the tournament. Um, but another guy I really like to watch play. It was sad that he didn't play a little better in the championship game, but one of his weaknesses got really exposed there. He matched up against a guy who really exposes players like that if they're not on their A game. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he manages to do against some of these athletic guys on Houston.
Yeah, and true freshman who got into foul trouble in the biggest game he's played in to date in the Big Five championship game. I'm sure Houston's going to see that, and they'll probably attack him. And I don't really know who, I don't analyze the game enough to know. Like, I know Blasingham's a really good defender, but I don't really know how he fares as a defender. I mean, 6'7", 200, you think, but you never know. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I imagine he's going to get attacked a lot, and it's going to be a huge moment from a true freshman kid from Boise playing in the Big Sky tournament. Pretty cool for him. We'll see how it goes. And if it goes well for him, don't be shocked if he goes to Mountain West School or whatnot, or higher. And maybe kind of be a guy who, like, 3 years from now, we look back, oh, remember when he was playing for Idaho? Or maybe he sticks around and becomes a legend for the Vandals. Moving on, another guy who is good young for Idaho is Colton Mitchell, redshirt sophomore. Last year could have arguably been the Big Sky freshman of the year as a redshirt freshman. Couple weird game things from that though. He played for Idaho State his true freshman year. A kid from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is not very far from Moscow, as you've said. Went to high school at Lake City. Played for Idaho State 10 games as a true freshman, then got hurt, medical redshirt, transfers to their rival, where he had a great freshman year, averaged 11 points per game to make it, so Idaho had back-to-back. Or no, they did not have back-to-back, because he didn't win it that year. He wasn't a true freshman, and they gave it to Evan Otten. Had a really good freshman year. He was the big skipper of the week at one point on the preseason conference team. This year, has been, I think, up and down. When he's really good, he is really good. He scored 26 to Eastern, 9 for 15. Carried them that win. Went nuclear. Scored 18 and when they murdered Idaho State the second time they played him this year. He scored 23 against MSU in a game. He scored 31 in a non-con against Cal Poly. Talk about a microwave player who, like, you wouldn't want to be hot against you in the tournament. I'd agree with that. With Colton Mitchell, but the con, 6'1", 170 list on the roster, as we know, a little smaller. That's not a big height or weight for a D1 guy, especially like if you're going to match up against a team like Houston with really big athletic guards. And obviously he's probably a little smaller than that. But basketball is a game where you can get away, and his play style is a really good shooter. He's really fun to watch. So yeah, he could get bullied a little bit, and he has been this year at points, I think. But if Colton Mitchell gets hot, I feel like him, obviously a couple of other guys, like we said, Brody Roberry would be a big part of it, but like him, Pico, Isaiah Brickner, like they would have to all have really good games if they're going to pull this upset off. But Colton Mitchell is a big part of it, I feel like, if they're going to win. And if Houston takes him out of the game, that's how Houston's going to dominate, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's tough. I don't love to compare like my own size to these guys, but like I'm 6 foot like 175 so if I think about like my size and weight and put myself obviously different skills, but like you do have to consider that like me, Joe Schmo at my size and then like he is an inch taller and 5 pounds lighter, and he's playing against like a Houston team. It's like obviously he has the skill, but you look at you definitely have to look at the size matchup there. It's like when he's rolling in at about average for what his height is, um, and he's like it doesn't look like he's pretty light. Like he looks pretty skinny when he plays. Like I would say there's a lot of lean guys on this Idaho roster. Colton is probably the skinniest in terms of just like guys that we've watched play. Like he looks pretty light. So I do worry about the physical part of the game. Like is there something there? But I also think um he is so talented just all around. Like he is, yeah, the shooting is there. He really fights through guys. Like he does, he plays bigger than he is all the time. Like he gets past guys. So I Colton is like so when he has his like 20+ point games, like it's so much fun to watch. It's just one of those kind of like when you watch a good shooting point guard. I mean, obviously like very different, but like when you watch like Steph Curry or Kyrie Irving, they have like a good game where they're just shooting. They shoot from anywhere. They have like these games where you just like, oh, are they ever going to miss? Colt Mitchell kind of feels like that. He kind of feels like when he gets on the court and he's having a good game, it's like this guy's not going to miss. Like why would like you have to face guard him. You have to walk him up the court if you want to stop him. So that's what I love about him is he when of all I think of every player on this roster, when he's hot, he's the hardest to stop because he just hits shots that like
Yeah.
you wouldn't expect a guy like that to hit. Um, at least for his size and like so, again for his size against some other guys who are bigger than him. I will say the one thing about the Eastern game is I mean, their guards also aren't particularly like the largest either. I mean, you have guys like Moses who are a little bit smaller, so I think a really good matchup for him in those games. But it is one of those things where he's still played really well against bigger guards and guys in the Big Sky who you might think would lock him up. But yeah, I don't know. I really like him. I really like what he brings, but it's another thing where it's just that physical aspect of the game is going to be really brutal for him if he can't figure it out. If you can't figure it out early, so
As we look at the back end, like these last five guys on Idaho's roster, they have to wear ties in their team photo. It kind of looks like a real estate firm. Um,
it does.
I think so. Seth Joba and Miles Clapper are the only other two guys who play. Clapper's really a rotation guard, especially if guys get into foul trouble. So not much to say about him other than he's 6'3", 185. Joba, he transferred from Vermont. It's my boys, good basketball school. He's from New York, which is kind of crazy. A lot of these guys are more
Yeah.
local, but
Mhm.
he's just more of a defensive forward center, or like forward post guy. He's a pretty good rebounder. He's having a pretty good year this year, but he's just a rotation off the bench, not really who they run their offense through or anything. But yeah, that's Joe as a guy who will see the floor in March Madness. So don't really know about them. Guess the only other guy to highlight is Alex Pribble, who's in his
Yeah.
fifth year. Is that right, Max? No,
Fifth,
it's
I
third
think
year.
he's
Sorry.
here.
Just completely turned the team around. They were really bad when he took over.
They're
Um,
terrible. Like
Terrible.
6 years ago, they were horrendous.
Yeah. And he's turned the team around. He's a good young coach and a guy who, after this year, if you're a West Coast Conference team who's bad and wants a coach, you might want to make a call to. He's turned this team around. Um, yeah, he coached at Cal Berkeley. Um, he's a
He,
California guy, but
yeah.
Coach Pribble's a pretty good coach. A lot younger than Calvin Sampson. Calvin Sampson, say that much.
Yeah. The
Okay.
the something that this is like a very this is they don't have technically a connection because they were off by a season, but Alex Pribble, I just
Mm.
want to point out that Alex Pribble was um a grad. So he was a grad. Yeah, he played. Um, so he was a grad assistant at Cal and played. He was a walk on. He was a walk on for Cal Berkeley, but it's kind of funny because I'm pretty sure Alex Pribble and Travis DeCure missed each other by like a year.
That's crazy.
Because Travis DeCure was an assistant coach in 2008 to 2012. So I'm pretty sure the 1 year Pribble was a grad assistant there, he left and coached in high school level, and Trav moved over from Old Dominion, where he was for like a pretty decent amount of time, and was their assistant coach for like 4 or 5 years. So a little fun Big Sky tidbit is Pribble and DeCure were like I think a year off. I don't know if that '08 is like '07 to '08 season. I would assume it's '08 to '09, but you never know with the years sometimes. But they have that there is that connection there, so that kind of made that championship game a little bit more fun. But they didn't quite overlap. They just barely missed out on each other.
Okay, so we went through Idaho. We talked about the matchup. I'm gonna give a couple reactions from people on Twitter to the matchup, and then we can maybe look at the bracket as a whole a little bit, not spend too much time on that. There's people who get paid way more than we do talk about it. But here's some people's reaction on Twitter to Idaho's draw against Houston. Fair amount of these are Montana. Well, okay. So Zach Lubeck, who's a huge Montana basketball fan, he makes his own non-con schedules. He figures out the schedule based on other team schedules. Cares a lot about the Grizz. He says it's a brutal draw. They're going to lose by 30. And Pete Ackelstad, who's he's always negative on Twitter, with all due respect. He said number 15 seed is one higher than they should be. James Torman Aldrich, our guy, Montana born, did go to an Idaho alum. Shout out James, student journalist. He said it's not. He was there at the ceremony too, in Idaho.
Yes,
Said not good. However, Idaho has a guy, Blasting Game, who was on the FDU Believe It team. So anything's possible.
Yeah.
I bet. Like, we had no James go for the boys. Carl with a K. University of Idaho grad, lives in Boiling Springs, South Carolina. It was never going to be easy. 15 seed is better than many expected. Do we have a chance? Yes, but I don't think we'll win. Just play tough and make us even more proud of this team. You know what? I like to hear that, Carl with a K.
Yeah.
Raynard Ford. No clue if he's related to Thomas Ford. Go Vandals. Make an upset. Dan Nobles, happily married, Christian conservative from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He says the pack light.
That's so great. That's crazy.
That's fine. I actually like I've never heard that one. Like in sports, like I've never heard like a team going to play somewhere and they're like backlight. That's so funny. That's actually so funny. Jake Forsyth. Don't know where he's from. But his most recent tweet. Oh, he's from Boise because they did not clean up the Chipotle in Boise. He's pissed about it. Anyway, he says, "Just dance, baby!" Exclamation mark.
Oh my God. Hey, the Chipotle in Boise. You heard the man.
Do we clean this? It was like outside. Do we clean this place or not?
Yeah, figure it out. Okay. What do we do?
So yeah.
Oh
let's go down quickly on the bracket, and you just give. We'll talk about mid majors mainly. Just give your gut reaction. We don't care about the high major stuff.
Yeah.
Starting top.
Last point I want to make about this really quick. James also did no Idaho versus Gonzaga and Portland is rough. I agree, and I mentioned the point about the 14 seeds that if they would have won a couple more games, their Ken Pom would have been insane. They're probably not insane, but their Ken Pom probably would have been high enough where they would have been considered for that matchup instead of Kansas.
Yeah, that would have been fun. Idaho fans would have been to travel that one a lot more.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, let's look at the bracket and talk about some other favorite mid-major schools. And maybe tell me how you feel. Number 1 Duke
Yeah.
versus 16 Siena. Do we like Siena?
I mean, here's the problem
They're
is
playing Duke.
no.
Okay.
they're playing Duke. Listen, who did they beat? Oh yeah, they beat Merrimack, a team that almost, I mean, if Merrimack would have won that, it would have been they would have made it out of the Never Made the Tournament Club. Shout out that Twitter page. Great. Probably my favorite basketball
Yeah, it's
Twitter
a good
page is
page.
NMTC. But they ruined Merrimack's chance at a March Madness bid. Um, Heartbreaking. Uh, they played a lot of teams I don't think are really that good, really like fairly close. I don't know their whole schedule, but I they they're just browsing their schedule right now.
They
Not
lost by
particularly.
21 to Indiana.
Oh, in Vermont, your Catamounts beat them by 14. So I'm gonna say
No, yeah, they're not winning.
Duke Blue Devils. Duke Blue Devils by a house.
Okay.
So
We don't care about Ohio State TCU. That's not mid-major. St. John's versus Northern Iowa.
I love UNI, man.
Former Big Sky MVP Dylan Darling playing for St. John's against UNI. Trey
Yeah.
Campbell leads UNI in scoring 13 points a game.
Yeah.
They lost to your Wichita State Shockers this year by 5.
They did. Wichita
Um,
State will not be
oh,
in the Big
yeah.
Dance.
Didn't they beat Belmont to make it? UNI? I think so. In the Arch Madness. Yeah. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
ooh, and they lost they kept it close in the game against St. Mary's, so they could be fun. We'll see. That could be an upset pick for some people. Kansas
Yeah.
and Cal Baptist, the last team to ever make it out of the WAC, are playing each other.
And also they're out of the NMTC now. Cal Baptist first appearance
Oh,
in March
nice.
Madness.
They're
How about
25 and
them?
8. Dominic Daniels, 23 points per game.
Nice.
They lost to Colorado by 8, and BYU by 31. And they kept it close against Utah. They played Utah Valley like 4 times this year, including that game they won in the conference tournament. So, they could be a fun team. Darren Peterson's got some character issues, as far as I'm concerned.
Darren Peterson
Like, what if he
is
just
a
doesn't want
guy.
to play anymore against Cal Baptist?
I I mean, who knows? He might get to 18 minutes in the game, and he might. I I I feel like Darren Peterson should start when he hits that 18-minute mark or whatever. When he looks at Bill Self, and when you like look at the
Yeah.
waiter across the restaurant and do the shit right. Can I get a?
Well,
That's what he should do.
when they played Iowa State this year, he tried to do that, and Bill Self was like, "No, you stand up."
Dude, he might. I mean, he might have had a cold. He might have had a little bit of a sniffly nose going into the.
Yeah, I do think Kansas will win that game. I don't like Kansas to go far in the tournament. Um,
No, I feel like they're probably going to lose pretty early. I've watched a lot of Kansas basketball, and they like to not play well a lot of the time, unfortunately, for no good reason.
and they really only do play well on like Big Monday in Allen Fieldhouse. Guess where the NCAA tournament isn't? Big Monday in the Allen Fieldhouse.
I mean, if it was in the Allen Fieldhouse every year, I mean,
a fun,
Kansas would be World Series
a
champions
fun
every
upset
year.
pick. Louisville playing USF 6 versus 11.
Dude,
The Bulls are good.
People thought they were going to be a 12 seed. I've watched USF play a lot this year. That's the Americans, another league. People who don't know, I go to school at Wichita State as an online student. Go Shockers, woo shock. They lost to USF in the American chip. That is just an unbelievable team. Louisville should be shaking right now.
Yeah.
That team is out for blood. So the Bulls, I like the Bulls. I actually think I'm going to pick them in my bracket. They look good.
Yeah,
look
me
really
too. They had a bad start, I think, but they beat Utah State this year.
Yeah.
And they kept it within 9 to Alabama in a really high scoring game. And then obviously, as you said, they handled the American pretty well. Okay.
Yeah, they're yeah.
Michigan State, North Dakota State. Our boys from the Summit NDSU had a good year. 27-7.
They beat
Unfortunately, I have to
their
play Jeremy Fears and who's the other guy? The good dunker.
own car.
Yeah, Owen Carr. Unfortunately for our boys, it might be tough. They lost by 2 to Oregon State. That's not great looking back on it. Went back and forth with St. Thomas. They beat Drake, who's in a pretty good conference. So yeah, not a great draw for them because I think Michigan State's pretty damn good. But
Yeah.
it'll be fun to see how they play NDSU. So to tune into them.
Yeah, they beat. I mean, they beat their rival up in Grand Forks. Well, not in Grand Forks, but they beat their rival from Grand Forks. They went to Sioux Falls, where their tournament is. But yeah, I like the Bison. Am I going to pick them to upset? Probably not.
Probably
But
not.
I
No.
think they'll play. They'll probably play Michigan State better than people think. I bet that's probably North Dakota State's going to give the Spartans a run for their money. If I had to bet, but I don't think they'll win that one.
Okay. Yukon versus Furman 216 matchup. Paladins from the SoCon. Yukon, Dan Hurley keeps getting frame logged by Rick Kino. I keep hearing about that. Um,
I've does anybody remember Furman? 3 for D's.
they
Good.
did have that big win this year.
Did we?
They lost to UNI, the tournament qualifier, by
Mm,
quite a bit, 16, and they lost to Troy by 3 and High Point. They got killed by High Point early in the year, so they're not that
they'll.
good this year. But the SoCon's usually tough. That's why they're a
Yeah.
15 seed. I think UConn's gonna win that game.
I think of all the 215 games, though, I do think Furman has the best chance of beating the team that they're playing. If
Okay.
if I had to pick a 215 right now, I'd pick Furman over UConn. I like Furman. They always play well in the tournament. They
Give
always give
me
teams a scare.
give me Queens over Purdue before I pick Furman.
I just don't know enough about Queens. It's their obviously this is their first tournament appearance. I
That's
know
what I
that
like.
much.
That's not okay.
But I yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. That I think I Florida gets the winner of Prairie View A&M versus the Lehigh. I think Florida will win that game, but we love first
Yeah,
four. It's fun to watch the first four. Prairie
yeah,
View reminds me against Lehigh. Like Idaho, I feel like was almost in Lehigh's place. If like Lehigh
yeah.
hadn't won, Idaho might have been where Lehigh is right now, playing Prairie View,
Mm,
trying to end our podcast's namesake. But they're
yeah.
not. That'll be fun to watch though. That first four game. Number 5 Vanderbilt versus McNeese. Oricon is back at McNeese. They did lose their
Not a
coach.
not a
Um,
good draw, but Vanderbilt. I do want to say Vanderbilt team that people should probably keep an eye out for.
you think they're good?
Not, I I the only and here's the thing, and everyone's gonna talk about like tournament like teams that don't make the tournament a lot or like teams that don't have a lot of tourney experience. Vandy's probably going to get that, but man, like that's a well-coached team. That's a team that beat up on some good SEC teams. I like Vandy, but McNeese, they have Will Wade left, and they're still good.
Yeah.
There's a formula there that is now it's consistent. So obviously they couldn't get the job done last year against it was Gonzaga last year they played.
No, they won their first
Isn't
round
that
game. They beat
who was their
they
first?
killed Clemson in the first round, remember?
Right, they killed
And then they
Clemson, and
played
then
Gonzaga.
they lost to Gonzaga in the second. Is
Yeah.
I guess what I was trying to get at. But like they beat, but yeah, like McNeese is a team you don't want to draw. They won their first. Won their first round game. Did not play it as well against Gonzaga, but I mean it's a team that's been there, done that, and so don't be surprised if they make Vandy feel it. But I like I like the boys out of Lake Charles a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, only 5 losses for McNeese this year. One of them is Santa Clara tournament team.
Yep.
One of them to Michigan by 40, but they scored 71 against Michigan. Michigan just scored
Yeah.
112.
Yeah.
They
What are
beat
you
Rhode
gonna do?
Island though, an A10 team. They beat Murray State. They beat George Washington, another A10 team. Yeah, you're right. McNeese is good. That's a tough draw. That's a. I'll probably pick Vandy, but that's one of those ones where like I love picking upsets and I'm always wrong. But there's nothing worse than when you pick the favored team to win and you tune in and there's just some guy hitting Jack Golke is hitting threes from the logo and you're like, oh no.
Yeah,
McNeese, that might be that game for me where I tune in and I go, what the hell? Um,
I
in our
I feel that.
featured our dream Big Sky matchup, Troy versus Nebraska,
Oh
13-4.
yes.
Um,
Uh,
I
yeah.
like Troy to win this game just based on vibes.
Really?
Nebraska's
No.
been bad. Like they've lost some pretty tough Big Ten games down the stretch. Air
Yeah.
Force, they've lost 6 games, but a lot of them have come later in the year. Troy beat San Diego State this year. Beat Kent State. They've scored 108 against San Diego State. Um, they lost to USC by 1. They beat the Akron Zips by 10.
Yeah.
I like Troy
Well,
to win
didn't they?
this game
Troy looks. I mean, Akron. Yeah, Akron, who was in the tournament. Also, didn't they lose that USC game
in
in
overtime.
like? Yeah,
Yeah,
wasn't it like double overtime or
I think
something
you're
that they
right. Yeah.
lost? So yeah, I might, dude. This is like actually kind of a great draw for like a McNeese Troy. I could totally see McNeese Troy in the next. Like that is not an unrealistic.
I don't know about McNeese. I'm definitely picking Troy, and like could be wrong. Led in
Yeah,
scoring by a
I
Victor Valdez from Monterrey, Mexico. Oh, buddy.
oh, that's what I like to hear.
I like this Victor Valdez guy. Okay. That'll be a fun one. That's where we were hoping that Portland State would end up right there. In North Carolina VCU. VCU is an A10 team, which isn't like I know they're mid major, but they're a bigger conference. So I don't have too much to say other than the Rams had to win to get in. They're playing North Carolina. I probably would pick the Tar Heels in this one, just based on conference prestige. Um,
They
VCU
are
lost
with
to Utah State this year. They lost to Vandy this year. They lost to St. Louis this year. Really, the best wins they have this year all. Um, they only have 7 losses, so credit to them for that. But their best wins are kind of all in the A10 play, and they beat a good A team, so credit to them there. But
yeah and they. I will say it'll be interesting with no Caleb Wilson. He's out for UNC, so I do think that will play a factor into
he's
this
not
game.
coming
And
back.
I don't think he is. I mean, I'd be surprised. It seemed like he was out for the year.
I don't like North Carolina go far, but I think they'll beat
I
VCU.
don't think I don't think they'll lose, but I do think that's going to be an interesting hitch. Like I'd be interested to see if VCU is going to have to play some really good basketball, but definitely not a cakewalk for UNC
Yeah,
by
no.
any means. I think without Wilson, it's going to be a tough one.
Okay, another good one is oh, where'd my bracket go? Uh,
Penn,
yeah,
Illinois.
Penn versus gosh, where did we go? Penn versus I messed up. Okay, whatever. Penn versus Illinois.
Don't
That's
love
gonna be a
this
fun
one.
game. The Ivy League teams are always dangerous in March. It feels like Illinois got some
They
good
are.
players though, and Keaton Wagler and Stojakovic. Those guys are fun.
I think maybe I'm a hater, but I think Penn is the wrong Ivy League team to make that upset.
Yeah, they had a guy
Like
go
if it was like
nuclear.
yeah, if it was like Yale, yeah,
Yeah,
Yale. If Yale is in the tournament, you don't want to play them. That's my opinion. You don't want to play Yale. You don't want to play Princeton either. Yale and Princeton are the two you don't want to play. The other ones, I'm a little less like on.
yeah.
Penn's like one of those teams where I'm like, are they like legit? But I also think
And
Illinois. I mean, that team's pretty solid.
yeah, Penn only won 1 of 3 against Yale.
Yeah,
It was just the last one they played.
exactly.
But
The
credit to
one that
that.
counted.
Yeah, and they didn't really have any good non-con wins. They didn't do well against Villanova. Yeah, I think you're right about that. And also, I think It seems like maybe with NIL and stuff and transfer stuff, it's less upsets. And Illinois is definitely a roster that is like benefits from NIL. They got some really good transfers in there. So I like them to win that game. St. Mary's, Texas A&M. St. Mary's mid-major school, but really good mid-major school. So that's I don't really know what to say other than I kind of like St. They're higher seeded than Texas A&M, so it wouldn't even be an upset. St. Mary's beat your Shockers, Wichita State. They did lose to
Yeah.
Boise. That's a tough loss. Went back and forth with Gonzaga and lost to Santa Clara in the WCC. They're a fun team. We'll see how they play against a SEC team. That should be a pretty good matchup. Kind of a pickup in there, I think. We've talked enough
Yeah.
about Houston, Idaho. Arizona,
Yeah.
Long Island. Hey, fins up. I don't want to play Arizona right now, though.
Pretty sure former NBA player Rod Strickland is their head coach as
He
well.
is. He
So
is.
that's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
Long Island is fun. It's fun to see how good they've gotten. But they play in a really not good league, and bad things
It's
might happen to the boys. Um,
yeah,
have you
we're
seen
rooting
that
for you
movie
guys.
with Denzel Washington? I think it is. He's like the rap. Um, he's like a rap kingpin. He owns a record label company, and his son gets kidnapped. And he by
Oh,
ASAP Rocky kidnaps his son, but ASAP Rocky
yes.
isn't ASAP Rocky. Anyway, long story short, his son plays for LIU in that movie. It's a good movie. Check it out. Um,
Hold on.
then over Utah State. Utah State, sort of a mid-major. They're pretty good. That's another pick-up game, I think. Wisconsin High Point, 12-5.
Dude,
The
I
Panthers only
thought
have
High
4 losses this year, Max.
I thought High Point was going to beat Purdue last year. Man, I like this even better than the Purdue game last year. And High Point played Purdue really freaking well last year. They had a chance to beat them.
Yeah.
I like High Point. I don't know what the hell happened to them. I don't know where they came from, but they have just become a team that you don't want to play. And so Wisconsin, I feel like there's some fraudulent watch going on in
Wow.
the West region, and it's the Wisconsin Badgers, and I think High Point. What are they? They're the Cougars,
Panthers.
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 High Point Panthers. I think they're out for blood. And what's better than a team donning a little bit of red? I like it. I like this. Panthers are going to go Badger hunting in the first round. I'm picking High Point to win that game.
Arkansas, Hawaii, 4-13. Those are 2 great matchups.
That is a
Arkansas
good.
is
It is a good.
good. I like watching Hawaii though. They got my guy, the big fish, Isaac Johnson.
Yeah.
I watched them play a little bit this year. Hawaii,
Former.
because they play
Yeah.
late games. They only lost by 1 to Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon was
It was
not
a
good this year.
yeah. Oregon. What was they were the worst? Were they the worst Big Ten team? The
I think
men's Big
so.
Ten team. I think.
There's kind of a fight
Sorry.
for worst. Northwest or
Yeah.
Penn State was there too, I think.
Yeah. Dana. Sorry, Dana Altman. That was a tough year for you, man. Might be your last.
Arizona State, Oregon only lost by them by a couple. Another bad power 4 team.
The Hurley family having the
Yeah.
opposite ends of the year. UConn too, and Bobby Hurley out. I do. Hawaii does have actually a Big Sky connection.
Oh yeah.
Former Montana player Isaiah Kerr, who he didn't really play a ton at Montana, unfortunately. So like pretty loose connection, but he would played at Chico State and then he transferred up to Hawaii. So we will get we do get another Big Sky guy in there. I will say I think Darius Acuff is probably going to drop 30 plus on the Rainbow Warriors, but it'll still be fun for them. Still be there. It's like the first time they made the tournament in forever too. They have
Yeah,
not
and the
been
last time
back.
they made it, they actually won their first game. I remember. I feel like they upset
Oh
someone.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have to. Yeah,
Gonzaga, Kennesaw State. Hootie who? Do we like the Owls?
no,
Oh,
not particularly. Not particularly. I know Gonzaga. I mean,
Hey, they
I
kept it
think
within. Kennesaw kept it within 10 to Alabama.
good for them. I think Graham Ike is going to have a double double, and they're going to go to the round of 32. So I
Gonzaga only 3 losses this year. All
and
right, so
this is in
One of
Portland,
them by
right?
40 to Michigan.
Yeah, this one's in Portland too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, okay. The Owls aren't going to win that one. Fine. Um,
Yeah,
what about Purdue versus Queens? 14 losses this year.
that's a that's a you know
I don't like to see a
don't
6-point loss to Duquesne. Don't like to see that. But
yeah I would
it's like every
yeah
team has like they show you like 10 games that matter. Queens has
yeah
9 losses and 1 win, and their 1 win was in that championship game in the ASUN, I believe.
that's all
They
you
they
only need
played
to
a
win.
tough schedule. They played Villanova, Virginia, Wake Forest, Arkansas, and Auburn.
What are you? Why are you guys scheduling these games? Why?
And
Come on,
they
Royals.
didn't
What
they
are,
did not keep any of them within 10. So Purdue
okay,
probably wins this game.
yeah.
Michigan, UMBC disrespected the 16 seed. I'll say it.
You watch more basketball. You watch more America East basketball than I have.
I think
So
they're pretty good. I would probably pick them if they were in a better matchup than Michigan. I enjoy watching them play Howard though. Georgia St.
yeah,
Louis. St. Louis, pretty good. Not much of a mid-major team. They are, but everyone kind of knows who they are. They beat Santa
yeah.
Clara this year. That's kind of a pick-up game. Robbie Villa, we know. Texas
We're
Tech,
gonna feel it.
Akron.
Oh, Akron. That's a tough team. That's a team I would not want to.
Because
Dude,
Toppin
them
tore his
the
ACL too, right?
Toppins. Yeah, Toppins done for the whole year.
Yeah.
Toppins out. I all I'm gonna say is the MAC was probably the most like popular like mid-major conference this year for obvious reasons because of Miami of Ohio. But if you watched any MAC basketball, like the best teams in that conference were kind of crazy. Akron included. Akron was unbelievable this year. So I if I'm Texas Tech, I'm down our where you're down your best player and you get to play a 29-5 Akron team in the first. I think 29-5 is the record.
Yeah.
Like they're yeah, not a great draw. If you're the Red Raiders, I
I still
wouldn't.
think I'll,
That's
I'll
not
pick
fun.
Texas Tech in that one, but yeah, that one wouldn't be shocked. What, 4 Alabama versus 13 Hofstra?
Dude, another former NBA player, Speedy Claxton. He's their head coach.
Okay. They
I
hey, they only
yeah,
lost to UCF by 4 early in the year,
yeah, that's a tournament team.
and
I like
they
this.
beat Syracuse and Pitt.
Dude, beating Pitt is
Okay.
that's like doesn't count. Dude, what as I think Pitt didn't they lose? They didn't win a single conference game this whole season. The Pitt Panthers, more like the fucking shit Panthers. Am I right or am I right?
What if I told you Hofstra's best player was named Cruz Davis?
That's what I do. Cruz Davis is about to fucking go off. LeBaron Filan,
Yeah,
uh, you
it's a good
meet
name,
Cruz
but
Davis.
yeah, I don't know if Hofstra's gonna win that one, but they seem fun.
Yeah, I
Wyoming,
agree.
Ohio plays SMU in the first four. I hope the Redhawks win that. That's all I gotta say.
I
And they
think they
get
will.
past
I'm
Indiana.
I'm gonna project them to win that.
Virginia versus Wright State.
I don't like Wright State. I think
Wright
Virginia
State is
just
in the. I feel like the Horizon League always starts early, so I always watch Horizon League games and I become attached to the Horizon League teams and I pick them, and they never
yeah.
win.
Well, I mean, hey, Oakland, they did
Oh yeah,
they
you're right.
they
They do sometimes win. My apologies.
but it's pretty but you're right. Like it was like Oakland had their run and then it's like pretty inconsistent from there. I don't think Wright State is the team. They don't I mean they've had a lot of losses this year and Virginia
Tony Bennett's
almost beat
gone. They're done losing the mid majors.
Yeah, I was gonna say Virginia. Virginia almost beat Duke in the ACC title game, so I'm like, not. I would not really want to play the Cavs right now, to be
Yeah,
honest
they
with you.
played well. Kentucky, Santa Clara.
Uh, dude, that's actually kind of a tough one. I like
10-7.
Santa Clara a
Yeah, I
lot.
like the Bronx a lot. Only 8 losses this year. They beat McNeese. They lost to St. Louis. They lost to Gonzaga 3 times. So 5 losses outside of Gonzaga. And they also split it with St. Mary's. Actually, they won their
Yeah,
season series over St. Mary's 2-1. So that's a tough
yeah,
conference. And they beat McNeese, like I said. Lost to St. Louis by 1. That's a fun team. Kentucky's injured too.
yeah.
Finally, last one. Iowa State, Tennessee State. If
Not,
the if the Cyclones do this game, I might kill myself.
dude. The Tigers, man, tough draw. Toughest. That's the second toughest second seed draw.
No, they only lost by 29 to Tennessee.
I mean, that's. I mean, it's not 30.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Wait, they
It's
beat
not 30.
UNLV by 3. So did the Montana Grizzlies, though.
So did the Montana Grizzlies, and they lost to Montana Tech this year. So the UNLV, the Rebels, we're not a Montana or a Mountain West podcast, but just understand that every perception of UNLV that we have is through the Big Sky lens. And what did that team do? What was that team doing this year? Like, were they even good? Like, did they? Because Boise State, from what I understand, they kind of rounded their season a bit after their D2 loss to Hawaii Pacific. So I don't know.
Until
Maybe
they lost in the
not
first round of the Mountain West tournament.
Yeah, yeah. I think the Mountain West is such a fascinating conference to me because they have so many teams where I think they're going to be better and they're not, and then there's so many teams that just kind of like dominate. Like I mean, every, it's an interesting one. I feel like the parity in the Mountain West has got to be like crazy.
It does. Okay, well, we talked a lot about Idaho, Houston. We gave our bracket picks. We went through Idaho's whole roster. Don't have much to
Mhm.
say until the game. Oh, why don't we check when the game is and tell our viewers if anyone's still listening? Thank you everyone who does tune in and come watch this one.
Ooh,
Um,
Thursday, 8:10 p.m. Mountain Time, MDT.
ooh, so that'll be pretty late if it's in Oklahoma City. That'll be like 9 p.m. tip for both
Um,
teams. Interesting.
yeah, if
The
it's
very
central, yeah,
last game
they're
of the night, so that'll be fun to watch. We'll stay up
the nightcap.
on Thursday. I'm going out of town um that weekend, so we might have to wait till like Sunday night to record our reaction. But we can
Is
record our reaction the whole first round to end our first season. Oh,
yeah.
anyway, good podcast, Max. Thank you everyone for listening. Subscribe. Stream's over. Did not get very many more viewers than last time.
Hey, we got a Houston